Okay.
In the Arabian Peninsula,
Yes.
during the time of Mecca, what was the most prominent city?
What do you mean prominent city? In which way? Like economy, people, society,
In
history?
Muhammad's way, let's say, in any way.
Your question is too general. You're looking for an answer. But
Let's say in religious way.
So religion was like a very general thing before Islam, but dominantly in Saudi Arabia, it was. It's like they used to basically pray for. We call it in Arabic like asnam, and they used to basically go to the asnam and they would ask.
But
like
what is the
middle
prominent
people.
city? Prominent
What do you
city
mean
in
by
Islam.
prominent
Sorry.
city?
Well, what was the most?
wanted to say Mecca.
Well, exactly.
You want me to say Mecca?
Yeah.
How do you? Why do you? What's the point? You see-
Mecca was the place where Islam claims people visited Hajj since the time of Abraham.
Okay, but how is that related to your question?
I'm coming there. So Mecca, in all the ways it's described, idolaters, the headquarters that the idolaters had was in Mecca.
Okay.
So in all different ways, Mecca was the prominent city during the time of supposed Muhammad's living. Yeah, agree with me?
Muhammad's what?
During when Muhammad was supposed to have lived. You know, Muhammad 570, he was born. The claim is Muhammad was born in 570 AD. He died eventually in 632 AD. This is the claim. Yeah.
Okay.
610 AD, he began his public ministry. And his public ministry
How
initially
old was he?
40. When he began his public ministry, he was based in Mecca. This is the rough idea. Mecca was his focus. Mecca was his focus because of various reasons, but the number one of which was that it was the prominent city. That's where the
He
idolaters
was
were.
from there. He was born there.
It's
That's
not
the
just
reason.
because he was born there.
He was
That
from
is
the
where,
tribe. He was within the people.
that is where,
His family were like the biggest, like they were the head tribe.
Yes,
God
but-
did that on purpose
yeah.
because.
So such a wonderful city, Mecca.
Yes.
But here's my problem. Here's my problem.
What?
Archaeology tells us
Yeah.
that there is no reason to believe
Yeah.
that Mecca even existed at that time.
Allahu Akbar.
According to Islamic tradition, Mecca has been regarded as a city of great importance ever since the time of Abraham. According to Islamic narratives, it was here that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba, and from that moment on, the pilgrimage known as Hajj was established for all monotheistic believers. But when these claims are examined through the lens of historical and archaeological research, serious questions begin to emerge. To start with, Mecca does not appear in any known geographical or historical records from the outside world before the 8th century. Greek and Roman sources, such as the works of Ptolemy, and Byzantine and Persian trade documents make no mention of a city called Mecca. And yet other cities across the Hijaz and Levant, like Taima, Dedan, now known as Al-Ula, and Yathrib, which later became Medina, are clearly mentioned in historical records. That's why historians are now asking a serious question. If Mecca really was the major religious and commercial center described in Islamic tradition, why is there no trace of it in the historical record? This question becomes even more troubling when we realize that Muhammad's name is also missing from all non-Muslim sources written during his own lifetime in the 7th century. Documents like the Doctrina Jacobi, dated to 634 AD, the Chronicle of Sabaeos from the 660s, and various Christian writings from Syria and Palestine do mention Arab military movements and even refer to a new monotheistic faith emerging among them. But they make no reference to Muhammad, the Quran, or Mecca. And if Muhammad was truly a towering figure of his time, reshaping the religious and political landscape of Arabia, wouldn't we expect his name and actions to appear in the records of external observers? From an archaeological perspective, yet another problem arises when we examine the direction of prayer in early Islamic mosques. Studies of the oldest mosques in Egypt, Iraq, and Jordan, built in the 7th century, show that their Qibla, or direction of prayer, did not point toward Mecca, but rather toward a more northern location, Petra, in modern-day Jordan. If Mecca had been the original center of Islam from the beginning, and the Kaaba the designated focal point for prayer, why would the earliest mosques have faced somewhere else? Adding to the complexity is the fact that the traditional biography of Muhammad, the Shra, and the Hadith collections were written more than a century after his reported death. The earliest known biography of Muhammad was compiled by Ibn Ishaq around 130 years after Muhammad died. And even that original text has not survived. We only have an edited version by Ibn Hisham. This opens the possibility that the Muhammad story, as we know it today, went through a long process of revision, redaction, and perhaps even ideological shaping, particularly under the political interests of the Abbasid Caliphate. In academic circles, all of this has become the basis for a critical re-evaluation of early Islamic history. Scholars like Patricia Crone, Michael Cook, and Tom Holland do not necessarily deny that Muhammad existed, but they argue that the traditional image of Muhammad, Mecca, and early Islam was likely constructed and refined gradually, long after the events themselves. In other words, there may be a distinction between Muhammad as a historical figure and Muhammad as a theological figure within Islamic tradition. In the end, all of this leads to one essential and legitimate question. If Mecca cannot be historically verified in the 6th or 7th centuries, and if Muhammad does not appear in external sources until the 8th, how much can we truly rely on the Islamic narrative as factual history?
Well,
How you know?
What's that?
How you know?
Well, okay.
Let me prove.
Good. Very good. Let me give you proof, okay? Today, researchers who are researching...
Listen, you can't talk. Give me proof. Give me statistics, and then we can talk.
I'm giving you statistics.
Okay.
Researchers who are studying epigraphic inscriptions,
Okay.
writings on rocks,
Okay.
are figuring out that even before Islam is supposed to have come about, there are plenty of rock inscriptions in the entire Arab land.
Nice.
Various different languages,
Yes.
Northern Arabian tribes, Northern Arabian languages, Southern Arabian languages, and so on.
Different languages from one
Can I
particular-
please finish, sir? Please,
Just
please
trying to
listen.
correct you.
No. Please
Different
listen.
languages from one language.
Please listen, and then you can correct, and then I can face it. Please listen. Northern Arabian languages, Southern Arabian languages, most of these languages, some of the languages have been now decoded and so on. In one particular language called, in one particular kind of inscription, writing called Safayatic inscription, Safayatic, there are about 70,000 inscriptions.
Okay, nice.
70,000. But can you guess how many inscriptions are there in Mecca? Any guess?
What's your point?
Yeah,
If you listen, please. I'm speaking to her. Please, if you listen, please. If you can you guess? Across where Arabs were supposed to have lived, thousands and thousands of inscriptions recording Arabs' existence in various parts of not alone Arabian Peninsula, but also going as far north as Syria and so
Who
on.
conducted those research?
How many guesses can we
Well,
have?
let's come to that later. But she's an understand.
It's not a debate. It's not a debate.
Excuse me. She's understanding the point. If you haven't understood, you may want to get help later. Now, Safayatic inscription. Now,
Okay.
he was a bit confused. He thought we were talking about sweetness or something earlier. Wasn't that one of you?
You said to
Now,
when did the
Safayatic inscription.
Go on, go on.
Listen,
70,000.
Go on.
My dear friend, 70,000 inscription across Arabs, places where Arabs supposed to have lived. 70,000. In Mecca and around Mecca, very, very few. None of them religious from before the time of Islam. None of them.
Okay.
Very few. Indicating to the researchers who are into epigraphy clearly that people hadn't lived in and around what is Mecca and what is called Taif. In that area, people are supposed to have not have lived and did their business. Simply did not happen. This
You
is a
said
huge
the word
problem.
Indicate, yes?
Yeah.
Indicate, so
Yeah.
it's basically based on analysis of those people.
Yeah, analysis
You
of
can't
history.
just deny a whole existing civilization just because it doesn't match.
That's a very
There was a whole civilization that was different than the rest of the world.
Very, very good
Yes.
point. Please remind me your name
Maybe
again.
Aisha.
Aisha.
Yeah.
Aisha, you're making a very important point. Yeah. I am proposing a particular point,
Okay,
which is while there is thousands and thousands of inscriptions elsewhere, very few in Mecca, non-religious. That is the evidence I am presenting to make the point that Mecca seems not to have been an inhabited area at that time. You are making a very good point there where you are saying, well, are we going to discount the rest of information we have? But
not the rest of the information we have. People did live in Mecca, and it's a known fact, especially for us as tribal humans.
Good. So,
Middle Eastern.
Aisha, like how
so
I-
you can't just deny an entire tribe.
I know,
It's wrong.
it's very, very good.
A lot of people,
I have
tribes didn't write stuff down. Does that mean they didn't exist?
Good, Aisha. I have presented some evidence I have presented, he's like that, a bit rude, and he thinks he's the only one who can think. School holidays.
Go on.
I am presenting some evidence to suggest Mecca was uninhabited. If you are going to suggest that Mecca, like how you were saying, we have known through our tribes and so on, what is the evidence we have?
The Quran is not enough evidence for
From
you.
the Bible. I'll give you.
No. Bring your parents.
From the Bible.
Bring your parents.
Okay, you tell him.
Bring your
I'll talk to
parents.
you, tell him.
Yeah, good.
In the field of Middle Eastern archaeology, researchers have uncovered tens of thousands of ancient inscriptions, texts carved by pre-Islamic Arab communities across various regions of the Arabian Peninsula and beyond. Languages such as Safaitic, Hismaic, Thamudic, Dadanitic, and Nabatean represent writing systems used by these early Arab peoples. These inscriptions were often etched into desert rocks, recording everyday life, the names of deities, prayers to the divine, notes on migration, tribal conflicts, and even personal reflections of the writers themselves. What's particularly striking and at the same time deeply problematic for the traditional Islamic narrative is that among the approximately 70,000 inscriptions studied so far, not a single one mentions the city of Mecca, the Kaaba, or the Quraysh tribe in a religious context before Islam. And yet, according to Islamic tradition, Mecca was already a sacred site since the time of Abraham, a place of pilgrimage and devotion for monotheists for thousands of years. But the entire body of written evidence from ancient Arab civilizations never points to Mecca as a city of significance, whether religious, political, or commercial, prior to the 7th century. In contrast, cities like Tema, Dedan, modern-day Al-Ula, and Petra appear frequently in these inscriptions, and they are referenced in both religious and administrative contexts. Archaeologists have uncovered local deities, ritual practices, and rich social data from these sites. This naturally raises a crucial question. If Mecca was truly that important for that long, why is it completely absent from the historical record of the ancient world? This archaeological silence is not just about the missing name. It also reflects a complete lack of evidence for any large settlement, major trade activity, or established religious infrastructure in Mecca before the 7th century. Even the worldview and religious language found in pre-Islamic inscriptions reveal a highly diverse polytheistic culture, with no indication that the Kaaba in Mecca functioned as a monotheistic center of worship. Scholars like Michael MacDonald, an expert in ancient Arabian inscriptions, have also noted that Mecca simply does not appear on the religious or geographical map of pre-Islamic Arabia, at least not in any documented or inscribed form. This strongly suggests that the Islamic narrative about Mecca's sacred status, since the time of Abraham, lacks support from external historical sources, and as such, deserves critical examination. From this, a key idea emerges in academic study. The image of Mecca as a holy city was not a historical legacy handed down from ancient times, but rather a theological and political construction